Sunday. This is not going to be long. I decided to come on early because I have to pick my daughter up early from work, and I wanted to have enough time. We'll be on probably about 30, 40 minutes. I want to have enough time to share on this topic tonight. We are going to be on chapter 11, talking about dolls of the dead. It's not long at all, but it's good. It's really, really good. So we're going to go ahead and chime in. And I hope everybody is well. Okay. Good evening, family. Good evening. Okay, let's change this. Let's do this. Let's do this amethyst. This raw amethyst. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. All right. We are on page 78, chapter 11. We're going to talk about dolls of the dead. And this is very important to know about because there's some misconceptions, some misunderstanding. When it comes to witchcraft, witches, and magic, we get a bad rep, right? So it's good to know the ins and the outs of it. And also, I always say knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Okay, so let's begin. Haunted dolls, or normally inanimate objects possessed by some evil entity, are as much a trope in horror tales as voodoo dolls. And the common understanding is just as inaccurate. Sure, it takes a good scary story. It makes a good scary story. But the reality is far different. In this chapter, I'm going to look at 3 ways in which dolls are associated with the dead: spirit attachments, spirit houses, and dolls of remembrance. The first thing we're going to talk about is spirit attachments. I've never heard of the term, but we're going to learn about it tonight. First, forget the term, quote and unquote, possessed doll. Y'all got it? First, forget the term possessed doll. The correct term is spirit attachment. Wow. So you don't say possessed doll, family. You say spirit attachment. According to Jane, Jayne Harris, and Dan Weatherer, in their book, What Dwells Within, a study of spirit attachment, in case y'all want to get the book. What Dwells Within, a study of spirit attachment. However, Jane and Dan are convinced that sometimes the spirits of those who have died can become attached to inanimate objects, as they state. What is spirit attachment if not the very definition of a haunting? It is believed that ghosts haunt areas that the deceased were either fond of or met their demise within. And there are countless volumes dedicated to the documentation of haunted places and the history behind each alleged ghost. If a spirit can attach itself to a place that it once shared a connection with, then why not an object? Dolls were what originally interested Jane, and for many years, she ran a service called Haunted Dolls, through which she bought, researched, and then sold ones with spirit attachments. Wow, y'all. She said most spirits are not dark. They are simply people who have chosen to remain on the earthly plane after death. They do not wish to harm people. They just want to continue to experience the world or to watch over people they are fond of. If you think a doll you own might have a spirit attachment, You should research its history and make notes of any unusual activity that happens around it. I'm getting goosebumps all up my arm. If you wish to try to communicate with the spirit, one way is to cast a circle and then use a pendulum to try to get answers to yes or no questions. Hold the pendulum loosely on its string or chain and work out the motions that mean no and yes by asking questions for which you already know the answer. Then move on to questions you don't know the answers to. When you have finished, thank the spirit and say you wish to end the communication, then open the circle. Spirit houses. Spirit houses are effigies in which a spirit is deliberately placed and possibly bound, rather than a spirit choosing to take residence there or becoming attached. In some of the very earliest examples of effigy magic, figures were made of those who had died and then pinned so that their spirits wouldn't rise from the grave to haunt the living. In some cultures, spirits of ancestors were deliberately bound into effigies so they could be venerated. According to the folklorist Edward Lovett in Handbook to the Expedition of the Lovett Collection of Dolls, 1914. In Central Africa, spirit dolls of the Achua tribe consisted of a few short pieces of wood bound together with fabric into the figure of a child's doll, the rack being fastened by bark rope. Inside the fabric is a box made from the handle of a gourd cup. This contains the spirit of a dead ancestor, which has been captured and put in its abode as an item of religious regard. Among the Achua and Bantu tribes, the spirits of the dead are the object of worship. I hope no one will be too disappointed that I'm not going to be offering any techniques for binding dead relatives into dolls. Pagan Portals, Poppies and Magical Dolls is a beginner's book, and this is a pretty advanced topic. Dolls of Remembrance. Edward Lovett also mentioned that in 1836, some boys found coffin-like boxes, each containing a small doll in a concealed cave on Arthur's Seat, Edinburgh. He said similar boxes have been discovered in Germany and Britain. There the folklore was that if a sailor was lost at sea and the body not recovered, a small doll or cross was made to represent the person, put in a box, and a service for the dead performed over it. Those dolls were all put into one place, usually under the effigy of Saint Nicholas, the patron saint of seamen. Okay, let me say that right. The patron saint of seamen, as well as famed for giving toys to children at Yule. Even today, a doll can be a wonderful way to remember and honor a loved one who has passed on. If possible, use clothing and other items that belong to them to make either the entire doll or its clothing. If you have a lock of their hair or just a strand or two from their comb or hairbrush, include that in the doll. You can adorn it with jewelry or other small trinkets that belong to them. Put your doll somewhere special. This could be your altar, a shrine you have created for them, their favorite chair, or on a shelf. Honor the doll as you desire. You can put fresh flowers there or light a candle, but don't leave candles unattended. The doll can represent your ancestors in rites and rituals, or you can talk to it and visualize talking to your departed loved one. Some people find this helps them get through the natural grieving process, and it can also act as a focus if you wish to communicate with the spirit of the person who has passed. You can also create dolls of remembrance to honor and remember those who died long ago. Although you are unlikely to have personal effects to incorporate in the doll, you can choose colors that are appropriate for them and, if you wish, write or embroider their name. Artist and performer Denise Rowe created an installation to honor and remember the wise women and men who were persecuted during the witch hunts of early modern Europe in 2016. She invited people to make simple dolls from scraps of red fabric in honor of those who died after being accused of witchcraft. The dolls were to be installed in the landscape where Denise had collected at least 1 million of them. Practical exercise. Make a doll to remember those persecuted for witchcraft. Look, let me tell y'all something. That's the last little part. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. My mama presence is, she's very, very prevalent in my life. She is a phenomenal ancestor. She's phenomenal. When she was in the hospital, and I think, she had already passed over, and I was in her apartment, and my mom liked to cook. She liked to cook, and you had to keep her kitchen clean. I'm like that to this day. And when she was in the hospital, and I kept seeing, feeling this spirit, come around the corner and peep at me. And my mama used to do little stuff like that. Or she'd be just kind of coming around the corner, and it would spook me. And I told my friends about it. I just kept feeling like something was there, like I maybe seen a head or something.